Right, okay. I think we'll make a start. So, welcome everybody to Tech Wednesday. For those of you who are joining us for the very first time, welcome, and for anybody joining us from the further regions, again, welcome, and it's amazing to be able to have you join us this month, which hasn't been possible in previous months. So quickly, just to introduce myself, my name's Stephanie, and I'm the Community Engagement Manager here at the Innovation Birmingham campus. We are part of the Bruntwood Scitech portfolio, so welcome to anybody else who's joining us from Bruntwood sites. Tech Wednesday is our monthly meetup. It happens every single month on the third Wednesday of the month in our iCentrum building. Of course, things are a little bit different this month. I am based here in the iCentrum building, holding the fort down whilst everybody else is managing to work from home. But we wanted to keep our community going, so thank you very much for joining us. I'm just going to try, there we go. So our speakers for tonight, we're going to follow the same format that we do in person. We're going to hear from three speakers. So my colleague Cliff is going to give us a little context around tech's role in the current circumstances. And then we're going to pass over to Ben, who is going to teach us all about intellectual property, everything we need to know in just 10 minutes, which is fantastic. And then we're going to pass over to Don, who's going to ensure that we're all leaving this webinar pitch ready. Obviously, this is new to us, and we haven't done a virtual webinar like this before. So I ask that you please do bear with us throughout this evening. I'm sure there's going to be a few teething problems, but it wouldn't be technology if we didn't, I guess. I also do need to let you all know that we are recording the session, and this time it really is for training purposes. So I know everybody says that, but this time it's actually true. There'll be an opportunity throughout to ask questions. So at the bottom of your screen, you should have a Q&A tab. You can just put your questions in there and we'll be able to facilitate that. Or if any point throughout the Q&A you would like to ask in person, you can just raise your little virtual hand. It gives you an option there at the bottom and we'll come to you. Please do use the hashtags. Obviously, the Tech Wednesday hashtag will go all over social media. If this kind of gives us a real chance to shout about it, and we're kind of trialing this virtual webinar, which is really exciting for us. So please do shout about it if you enjoy it, that is. Use the @TechWednesday and the @InnoBham @Bruntwood as well, so that we can make sure that we're seeing those tweets. I'm not going to take up much more of your time. I know everybody who comes to Tech Wednesday regularly hears my dreary voice every single month. So this evening, my colleague Cliff's going to facilitate. So if I pass over to Cliff, hopefully this will be seamless. Cliff, take us away.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. So cheers, Steph. Maybe in a couple of seconds you can switch over to my live feed once people have absorbed who I am and see my last physical presenting position there, which is probably actually one of the last times I spoke in public before what's been happening recently. So I just wanted to say a few things, no more than 5 minutes. So the first thing I wanted to say, I've made a few notes, Steph, you'll be pleased to know, so I'm not going to drone on for 2 hours. The first one is, why we're doing this whole thing. Tech Wednesday is a community, and all over the news, you'll have seen for weeks already the importance of community. It's really important to us, and hopefully to you, that we keep this going. And we hope that we can actually create some additional value and have some even more interesting things on, using the technology that we all develop and preach about all the time. Tech Wednesday's endured through all sorts of different things over the years, building problems, tech problems, downpours of rain, recessions, financial meltdowns. And so we won't let this stop us either. technology has, taken us to the moon. It's helped us sequence the genome. It's helped us share funny cat memes, and it's going to help us beat this virus as well. And as of this weekend, it's going to help even more in educating our children. So all of these reasons, it's really important to keep this community going, and we hope to grow it online kind of through this event. My kind of feeling on this is we're not socially distancing by any means. We're physically distancing, but the technology keeps us social. And that's what we want to do with this. Just help do our little bit, whatever we can, to help keeping us social while we're physically distant. Few kind of words, I guess, couple of maybe upbeat thoughts about this whole situation we're in at the moment. So today I spent most of the day speaking with about a dozen different technology companies. And over the next 2 days, I'm going to be speaking with about another 50 or so, and then continuing into next week. Overwhelmingly, the sentiment is positive. So we've all got challenges. We've all got issues, sorting out the technology to be able to do things like this. We're all trying to figure out how to work better together and keep our businesses going, and keep going on that growth curve. It's going to be difficult, but the vast amount of sentiment has been overwhelmingly positive. Companies are analysing what's going on. They're getting together. They're nutting it out. They're planning, and most importantly, they're acting quickly to make sometimes the painful changes they need to make. But against that, the overall kind of sentiment is positive. So I just wanted to say those things before the speakers start. A couple of last closing comments, just in case this really does all go horribly wrong. The first thing is, if you've been to a Tech Wednesday before, then you'll know that normally we have free beer on. I've got mine, so I hope you've got yours or something similar close by. Well, if not, get it next time, and I promise you, when we're back together, I'll get them in. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is, because this is the first time we've tried to do this over Zoom, we all had a bit of a run through today, and I was in charge. I managed to kill the meeting and kick everybody off so they couldn't get back on again. So my hands are going to be here or holding this, and I won't be touching any buttons, Steph. But if something does happen, if for whatever reason we all go off, we'll try and kickstart the meeting. So do try and come back on with the link. But I think as long as I don't touch anything, I think we'll be all right. So keep going, everybody. It's all good. We're going to beat this thing through technology. And with that, I'll hand you over to Ben, who's going to be our first proper speaker.
Thanks very much, Cliff. I'm just going to share my screen now and get my presentation going. So hopefully now you can all see my first of slides. Now you'll be glad to know I've only got about 500 slides to get through, so it shouldn't take us too long. First thing I want to say is congratulations to everybody who's actually here and in attendance virtually. Congratulations on embracing the new normal, because everybody else is going to be a bit of a dinosaur. So congratulations on actually attempting to keep moving through this process. Now, as it says on the slide there, I'm going to take you through everything you need to know about intellectual property in just 10 minutes, or I'm going to try. It's a massive subject. I'm going to try and give you enough information to share with you my passion for the subject. And I do firmly believe, and I've been there and done that, I've helped a number of businesses from startup through to being multinationals on the basis of helping them to manage their intellectual property. So I'm going to give you some information which, regardless of whether you're a huge company, whether you're a brand new startup, or whether you're just in the process of actually thinking of starting up, I'm going to give you some insights relating to intellectual property that can help you to better run your business. And that applies equally now we're in this new phase of reality as it did before. So I want to take you through effectively 3 types of intellectual property. There are you may well have heard of various different bits of intellectual property in the past, but I want to take you through them in the way that I try and describe them when I'm running IP in a company. The three elements, or the three types of IP, are those that have the legal underpinning. So the bit over here, which is classic legally protected intellectual property, the bit of work that actually Mathys and Squire, the firm that I work for, get most involved in. And that's patents, trademarks, designs, copyright, database, and trade secrets. And I'm going to get into those in a little bit more detail later on in terms of how Mathys and Squire actually protect those and the value of those particular items. But I want to talk holistically in the first instance about intellectual property. So as well as the bits that are protected legally, you've then got the people-based assets as well. And this is massively important, especially now where we're all trying to manage how our people are working. And this is going to be massively important, especially when you get into the sort of the intellectual assets element. So processes, IT, how your business actually functions on a day-to-day basis. Who has the key skills, the important know-how, who manages the process, who owns the process in some instances. IT is going to be hugely important to you, and having control over your IT from end to end is going to be hugely important to actually build your intellectual assets. And finally, your market data. Never overlook the fact that you know more about your market than anybody else. You know, on an ongoing daily basis, we are learning more and more about our market. How does our market respond to price? How does our market respond to different offerings? Who are our competitors? How does our offering sit against our competition in terms of a price matrix? Are we at the expensive end, the niche end? Are we at the pilot high, sell it cheap end? Where do we fit? And managing and identifying where those key skills sit and being able to identify skill shortfalls and where you need to add training in your organization. So if all of your key skills, in other words, you know, the only person who knows how that works is Joe, and Joe is ill or unable to get into the office or whatever, does the whole organization suddenly find itself in a bit of difficulty? In that instance, you want to be able to manage your intellectual assets so that those key skills are not only recorded somewhere, but they're able to be passed on. So you've got multiple people within your organization who know how the organization works. Same thing goes for know-how. Control how things are given out in terms of know-how. Some of that know-how needs to be kept confidential. You might need to limit the number of people that actually understand how certain processes work, but you need to know who they are, and those individuals need to know that they need to keep that confidential. So, you know, signing NDAs is one thing, but actually having a team of people that maybe know the secret recipe for how something is produced, those individuals need to actually be told, look, this is important industrial know-how. We do not want this to escape the organization. Effectively, you are the only people that know about this particular element of our technology. And this goes even more down the lines of unrecorded invention. Because for something to become a patent later in life, and as I say, I'll circle back to the work that we do specifically at Mathys and Squire in a moment, in order for something to be an invention, it has to, or a patent, it has to be unknown in the world. You have to be the first to do something. And if you've actually revealed it in the public domain already, either by accident or by choice, you've lost the ability to patent that device or that invention. So your unrecorded inventions that effectively spin out of this area here, so the key skills, the processes, the IT, the invention that happens amongst your people, whether you're in the service industry or manufacturing, those inventions need to be captured. They need to be carefully managed and fed back into this area, the legal underpinning bit. So you know, the best thing you can do with your people-based assets is to know who has what skills, who effectively has key know-how, and make sure that those individuals are aware that they shouldn't be sharing that key know-how elsewhere. Identify new processes when they arise, and make sure that those processes are documented and carefully looked after. And then finally, the final sort of element of the three, the routes to market. This is massively important because just being clever, just having something clever or inventive in your organization doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be instantly commercially successful. It's amazing to me how many times I'll speak to someone who's an inventor of something, which is in and of itself incredibly clever and might have a potential massive market penetration. But unless they have a route to market, a means of actually getting that product or service to a paying customer in some way, then they have no means of making money out of that invention. Now, sometimes your route to market will be you're going to license it to a third party who has all this intellectual capital in advance. But very often, I have to say, it comes down to an organization having to be built around a piece of intellectual property, built around an idea or an invention or a brand, and then building a reputation, building on that brand, building contracts, building up relationships. And I've actually only just amended this slide more recently because increasingly important is a social media profile. So a client I've been working with quite recently was able to kickstart their business on the back of both an invention, but also the fact that they'd utilized that invention in advance to build a pre-existing social media profile of actually millions of people who'd seen the results on social media in the form of video before they even went to market. So they had the means through their social media profile to reach a number of consumers and get to market quickly. And that helped them to actually be quite commercially successful. So I want to move on now to the way in which this works with the legal underpinning. There are three core elements which require formal registration within the legal underpinning. The first one, and these are things that you may well have heard of, and I hate to patronize anybody, but I'm going to describe them in a bit more detail. So patents are the protection for the unique inventive technology. I did some research recently on the sort of top searches related to IP online. And people will search for things like, okay, how do I patent my idea? An idea in and of itself isn't patentable. Invention is patentable. Something that has a clear inventive step that actually moves technology on, that creates something which is faster, which creates something which is more efficient, which is less environmentally damaging, which is perhaps a new molecule that achieves something else, is inventive. Just an idea for baking cakes and selling those cakes to hospitals is not patentable in and of itself. That said, I'm not going to degrade ideas for businesses. What I'm saying is that in terms of what's patentable and what's not, you need clear inventive step. Now, hopefully, if anyone's got any questions relating to patents, they wouldn't put them on the chat right now, because I wouldn't want someone to reveal right here and now, well, I've got this fantastic new invention and I've created this, and put it in a public forum. But please, at the end of my presentation, you'll see my email address. And at the end of the evening today, you'll have my email address. If you have something which you consider to be potentially patentable, i.e. an inventive step, some new technology, some new way of doing something, which is faster, better, more efficient, lower cost, higher quality, and you've taken existing technology and embedded it, then please do talk to me about the potential to patent. Now, the way patents work, you gain up to a 20-year commercial monopoly on the commercialization of that new inventive idea, which is a massively valuable benefit to you, providing, of course, going back to the first slide, you have a route to market, you have a brand, a reputation, the means of actually taking that to market. It's not a cheap thing to do in and of itself, so it's not something to be undertaken lightly. It starts quite cheaply, thank goodness, but over time, the costs of maintaining a patent do go up. And patents are jurisdictional in nature. So again, I would advise you, if you want to file a patent related to the commercial monopoly of a technology, think before you go ahead and do that, about where in the world that technology might be applicable. Because you might start with a UK-based patent, but actually it's very rare that a technology is only going to be useful in the UK. It's not just viruses that go global, so does technology. So at the end of the day, you need to choose where your key commercial markets are and have a plan in terms of where you want your patent monopolies to work. So you might start in the UK and then broaden out into the rest of Europe. There is a European-wide patenting system. You might then want to go into the northern USA, Canada, southern USA, China, Russia, these various different jurisdictions. Each have costs associated with them. Please, if you've got any questions relating to patenting, do contact me via email, though, rather than putting it into the public forum. The second of these three elements are trademarks. Trademarks are specifically the protection for your brand. And trademarks are massively valuable as your brand builds in value. On day one, when you start a new brand, I always refer to sort of, Ben's Bubbles. I'm going to start creating, new washing up liquid, and I'm going to call it Ben's Bubbles. On day one, when I start selling that product, I haven't built up any kind of reputation related to what my brand stands for. So on day one, my brand is worth nothing. But in 20, 30 years' time, long after the new clever technology involved in my new detergent is long gone, my patent is long expired, I've built reputation and people will continue to come back and buy from me on the strength of my brand. And the only way to have a monopoly right over the use of a brand name is through trademark registration. This is massively important whether you're selling services or whether you're selling consumer goods, to have that right to be the sole person able to use that brand name. Now, people would assume on the basis that, I've registered the company name and the company name is Ben's Bubbles, therefore I must own the trademark. Well, that's not the case. A company registration is a different thing from the brand ownership. Brand ownership is only secured through trademark registration. And the trademark system is quite low cost, I've got to say. It's very cheap, in fairness, to get a brand registered in the UK. There is also, again, a European trademark registration system, which, despite the fact that we've now had Brexit, is still applicable to UK brands. And you can register in all the members of the Schengen area plus. And it says on the slide here, trademarks last an unlimited period if renewed every 10 years. Your initial registration will last you for 10 years, and then you re-register every 10 years. And some of the brands we work for have been going for a considerable period of time. And you'll see on the next slide, there's a few well-known brands that we actually represent in regards to trademarks. Now, it surprises me every day the number of new businesses that have started to sell in multiple countries around the world. They're selling consumer goods or they're selling services. They're doing tremendously well, and they haven't registered a trademark. For the kind of money that you're talking about, your marketing campaign for a month will cost you more than registering your trademark. And if you haven't got it registered, I would urge you again to contact us and have a chat with me about where are you selling, what are your plans to sell in the future, and how you might go about registering it. Amazon, for example, will only give you the right to control who sells goods under your brand if you've got a registered trademark in a particular jurisdiction. And I know of a number of companies who've had problems and have contacted us, shall we say, after the event to say, I can't seem to stop this company from selling goods using my brand name on Amazon, and they're selling it cheaper than I am. And Amazon have the power to stop that, but only if you've got the registered trademark. So be proactive. If you come up with your new business idea or your new concept or your new product or service and you want to sell it as a brand, then please register it as a trademark. Make sure that you own the one crucial thing which is going to go through the whole life of your company, right the way through from cradle to grave. The final one of these three elements that require a formal registration is design. Now, designs are there for the protection of the unique design features of a product. And again, you get a long commercial monopoly right. If you get a registered design, you get 25 years or up to 25 years of commercial monopoly, renewed every 5 years. It's for the aesthetics of a product. And that can be the aesthetics of a fabric design, of a particular consumer good, so a cuddly toy or a desk ornament, or it can also be a registered design for a particular user interface on a piece of computer software. So if you've got a particularly attractive user interface, which is, shall we say, appealing to your consumers, and you wouldn't want your competitors to be able to copy that or utilize that or elements of that in what they were doing, then you can register your design very, very cheaply, very quickly, either again jurisdictionally in the UK or across Europe or elsewhere in the world. It's a quick process, it's relatively cheap, and we can advise you on that as well. So those are the three elements that require formal legal registration. But take your IP holistically. And again, if you talk to us about your intellectual property and how you manage it, do please consider these other elements. Who has the secrets in our organization? Who knows what the secret recipe is? Who are the team involved in R&D? Are they inventing things that might be potentially patentable? If you understand those elements of IP and how you're nurturing them and growing them and controlling them, then I guarantee you're strategically building a better business. And when we go through times of change like we're doing right now, you'll be inventing and creating new processes, new ways of getting your products or services to your customers and living through these times. This causes us all to be inventive and creative. And if you're going to be inventive and creative, you're going to be producing intellectual property. So identify it, manage it, and carefully nurture it in your business. I did say that I'd give you some idea of the sort of clients that we look after. These are brands that should be relatively well known to you. We look after their inventions. We look after their brand identities. We protect and give them methodologies for how they identify their IP and better nurture it and manage it. And some of these brands like Harley-Davidson motorcycles, I've got to say, they make more money from brand licensing relating to Harley-Davidson than they ever do actually selling motorcycles. That's courtesy of the sort of advice and assistance we've given them over a number of years now on how to better utilize their brand. I did promise you everything you need to know in 10 minutes. I hope I've not bored you all stupid. If you want to talk to me and learn a little bit more, we have offices in Birmingham. We also have a head office in the Shard in London. My email address is down the bottom there, bwyatt@mathys-squire.com. And I will very gladly speak to any of you in relation to any questions you have in regards to IP. Thank you.
Brilliant. That's great. Thanks ever so much, Ben. Everyone's giving you a round of applause. You can only hear mine, presumably. Just a couple of quick. Should we do a couple of quick questions, Steph?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, is that all right? Yeah. Okay. So I've got a couple come in. The first one I shall flower up a little bit with my own language, but so. At what point do I come and talk to somebody like you? So, I've got an idea for a brand new whiz bang, and I think I know that it's different. So I could be at that stage, or I could be at I've taken it all the way through. I've designed it and I've started producing it. By doing so, I've had to speak to other people. When do I talk to you to give you something that's actually protectable?
Okay, well, generally speaking, the sooner somebody can speak to an IP professional, doesn't have to be me, but obviously I'd like it to be me or one of the people at Mathys, but the sooner you can speak to one of us, the better. I've got to say, generally people are scared of talking to attorneys. They think, well, actually, you guys bill by the hour, and if I come and talk to you, that's it. I'm going to immediately get a bill. Please don't think that. That's not the way I work. It's not the way Mathys and Squire work. We would far sooner talk to somebody 6 months or a year before they actually need to engage our services than have the reverse situation where somebody comes and talks to us a month after they've launched the product and we go, oh, good grief, I don't believe you've just done that. that's, it's too late. You've already revealed it in the public domain. We can't now get you certain protections that otherwise could be massively valuable to you. So from my point of view, I would far sooner talk to someone sooner, knowing that actually I'm not going to talk to them in terms of any commercial relationship for a year or possibly longer. I mean, the longest one I've ever had was 5 years from the first conversation I had with an individual to the point at which he called me and said, right, I'm ready. Now I need to file my patent application. We've done the work. We've kept it all confidential. I'm ready to launch. I've got financial backing. Let's go.
Yeah.
Because I can advise, again, it costs me nothing to give a little bit of commercial advice. I can advise people on the most appropriate way forward. I would say to people, limit the people who you do speak to outside of the world of professional intellectual property lawyers before you've spoken to an intellectual property lawyer, because we can at least say, look, you might want to, you've got to reveal the sizzle, but maybe not the sausage of your idea to potential investors, potential customers. But we can give you pointers. And I gladly will talk to anybody, and it costs absolutely nothing to speak to them.
Great. Okay, we've got another. I think we've got time for one more. I'll ask you this one, and then we'll move on.
Okay.
And then if anybody else has got any burning questions, we'll see if we've got some time at the end to field them to both of you guys. And if not, obviously contact Ben directly. So the other question is from Lee. I'm going to read this one out.
Okay.
Hi, Ben. A lot of people think NDAs protect you completely from prior art issues. Can you explain why this is not the case, i.e. an external company under NDA who accidentally sends it on email?
Yeah, it's a very good question. NDAs, I have to say, they're very useful documents, but they are a form of, again, of managing who you've told certain things. So to give you an idea, an NDA in and of itself doesn't prevent somebody from either accidentally or intentionally sharing your idea with 1, 2, or 1,000 people. What it does do at the very least is enable you to say, well, I'm going to give you this information under the terms of this NDA, and therefore you're being upfront with people who you're discussing your idea with to say, look, I expect you to keep this confidential. And the objective there is very clear. If you don't put any kind of NDA in place and you don't make it clear to people that what you're discussing with them should be kept in confidence, then you have no means of control. Now, there are instances where an accidental disclosure where it's been done in breach of an NDA have been, that evidence has been used as the means of protecting a patent that's subsequently been questioned. But you're far better off having a combination of a limited number of people who you tell under the terms of an NDA, rather than just saying, well, I'll tell everybody, but I'll get them all to sign an NDA. Because the other thing I've noticed as well over the years of doing this, people get people to sign NDAs and then don't keep them. So they have no idea who they've told. You ask them a year down the line, okay, so who did you tell? And were they all subject to NDAs? And they go, well, I'm pretty sure, yeah. Well, okay, can I see them all? And you can't. They've signed them and they've put them in a desk drawer or filed them in the bin or whatever else. They don't exist anymore. Right. If ever it comes to the point where somebody questions the legitimacy of your patent further down the line, and you can say, well, actually, yeah, that wasn't public disclosure. That disclosure was made under the terms of an NDA, and I've got it here in my sweaty palm. It was signed by the individual who's now claiming to have known about it beforehand through a public disclosure. It wasn't a public disclosure. He signed it on this day, or she signed it on this day, and that's the basis on which they know the information. So if you're going to have an NDA, please get it signed, please date it, and please keep it in a drawer, safely marked, and limit the number of people who you tell under NDA. And again, final thing there is, if you're going to use an NDA, please don't choose one off the internet. Get it drawn up properly. I've seen some disasters. Please get an attorney who's going to advise you to produce you one that's relevant to what you're doing, because a bad one downloaded off the internet isn't worth the paper it's written on. Hope that's useful information.
Brilliant. Okay, fantastic. Thanks ever so much, Ben. Like I say, please do, get in contact with Ben directly. Any one of the team online here, myself, Steph, can put you in touch. So good stuff. Just a small disclaimer just before we move on to the next speaker, Don. So Don's is a bit of an interactive session in somewhat, and I don't know whether you've heard and tried things today. I know a lot of the tech companies I've spoken to have had trouble with streaming services, Microsoft Teams, Skype, etc. Just been overloaded. I think there's a lot of very hot servers in deserts in America. So if there's a few connection issues or something, we'll try and keep going. But hopefully we'll be all right. So okay, Don, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for that, Ben. Yes, I think I was reading the chats and people said that was very informative, very enlightening, and I've got to agree. Some great stuff there. And thanks, everyone. So this is going to be interactive. To do that, I'm going to have to try and look at the chats as I'm going through, and I'm not even sure how to do that. Yes, I am. So maybe chats or maybe Q&As. This is a session on designing and pitching your value proposition. And it was designed to be done in 15 minutes. So it's going to be quite fast. And I love this stuff. Anybody who knows me knows that I quite like this speaking and presenting stuff. So if I get excited, somebody send me a message to calm down a bit. But here we go. So you're going to be typing things in. The way this is going to work, if it was in the real world, if it was live, people would have a little breakouts and they'd answer the questions and talk to each other. We can't do that. So we're really experimenting with the idea that if you type the stuff in, at least you'll have a record of it yourself. So you're not typing it in the information necessarily for other people to see, it's so that you can have a record of it. And a little bit later on, so 15 minutes from now, if somebody wants to put their hand up, let Cliff know they want to speak and just try out their value proposition, they can perhaps try that. But we'll see how it goes. So my name is Michael Don Smith. I've been speaking and presenting for quite some time. And what I want to talk about right now is how you pitch your value proposition. And I'll talk about what that is. But really, it's my value proposition is I teach people what to say and how to say it to demonstrate to their clients how they can get more and higher value results from working with you, the provider of a service or product. There's a lightning overview of designing and pitching an irresistible value proposition for your ideal niche. And if you look at that last sentence, it's quite packed. Every word in there has value. So let's get into this stuff. Well, the value proposition I'm going to show you is based on the elevator pitch. Now, most people nowadays have or have heard of an elevator pitch. So I'm just going to refresh your memory. It's a brief statement that tells people what you do, how you do it in as little as 15 seconds. Why name Richard on a pretty short. And most people go over some great, which is a better, great client, someone who can help. Yeah, ready. So it's been speed elevator pitch. I hope reasonably obvious. Start with the goodness me. Yeah, a little bandwidth hiccup there. So your name, what you do, how you do it, and what's in it for them. So this is the bit where you can, if you want to play, and also big thanks to, I think it was Dave. We can now see everybody's comments. Thanks for that, Dave. So if you'd like to put in the chat what you do, how you do it, and how it serves your audience, your client, your customer, just type that in there so we can all see it. It may be out of sequence, but we'll see your name, we'll know what it is. So if you're up for that, just type in what you do, how you do it, and why anybody should give a hoo-ha. Hi, Martha. You can't get away from me, can you? Okay, I'm seeing the names coming through now. What have we got here? So Stephanie, that's one I can see. Community engagement, she does it fabulously. And the reason why you should be part of it is the best community you'll ever be a part of. It says 3 here, but I can only see 1. Anybody else typing, or am I? Oh, because I've got all panelists. I need to put that to be everybody. All panelists and attendees. That's better. Ben Wyatt, I listen. IP law consultant. I listen, identify IP value, and advise how best to protect and nurture it. Electric car chargers to businesses that need them, so they can be a part of future transport. Excellent. Am I missing out on these? Is that all there is? Anybody else? Can I see it? I just want to see a couple more that have not. Oh, we've got Cliff here. Maybe I can only see the panelists. Cliff, help companies grow with personality, proper commercial opportunities. Okay, so a little hiccup there. I'm sure it's something I've got.
John, I think there are a couple more. If you just scroll up, it might just be that people are typing over each other.
Okay. Right, let me scroll up. But as I was saying earlier, Ben, it kind of works because we can see. Oh, here we go. Now I've got applause. Great job. My internet is quite unstable, so maybe it's too. But that's the idea. So if you keep typing that through as you think about it, that's a basic speed elevator pitch. Hasn't got too much artistry or sophistication about it. So we can do that. But if you want to actually design it, put some thought and effort in, every pitch is a kind of presentation. And there are rules for the basic structure of any presentation. Beginning, middle, and end. You start, you say hello, you say something about what you do, how you do it, and then you should try and wrap it up somewhere. So hello, say some stuff, goodbye. The classical model is I call A, B, C. A, you grab their attention, attract the immediate interest from your audience. You start talking before you've got their attention, they're going to miss it. So you create rapport, hello, smile, wave, connect. When you've got that connection, you tell them some of your stuff. This is the body is where we often get wrapped up in ourselves because this is our expertise, this is our area. We know a lot about it, and we can tend to fall into the trap of overwhelm. An elevator pitch is a very say, I've got so much, I know so much, there's so much I know, so much I can share. Where will I start? Where? And you just spin out of control. And when the eyes start glazing over or you run out of time, you then got to close. And you don't have time to summarize the speech. You don't have time to do anything. You just got to say, well, okay, thanks, great. I'm going to spot somebody else. And you're thinking, oh, I wish I'd said that. Or why didn't I say that? Oh my gosh. And the opportunity's gone. So the structure is the same, even if you don't do it very well. I hope that makes sense. So So an elevator pitch is really an elevator speech because it doesn't have the key elements of a pitch, which is the ask. So if I give you an elevator pitch, the structure is A, start. So I'd start, my name is Michael Don. B, I provide a proven speaking system. The what, why, so clients can get more and higher value. How? By designing and pitching an irresistible value proposition. So what? To gain the benefits of game-changing influential communication. Now that's just a speech. I'm just telling stuff, I'm getting out and I'm talking to people. So we've got to get a little bit more. It's okay, it's better than nothing. It says what I do, but there's no persuasion, no influence, no rhetoric in there. Where does that come from? Well, it comes from the structure of a pitch. So in the beginning, I know I'm going to say who I am and what I do. Very brief, very punchy, in bold, showing his personality in the way he did it. So you can, even if it's just one word, there's a way you can deliver it that adds a little bit of panache. Then in the body, I've got 3 chunks I must get in there. I need to let them know who I serve because my message is not for everyone. Everyone who's met me, I'm sure they'd agree. My message is not for everyone. Your message may not be for the whole market, with the idea of niche and who. So you let people know who your message is for. If you're networking at Tech Wednesday when it comes back and there's 80 people in the room and you tell everybody, I can work with you, I can work with you, I can work with you, I can. Oh no, I may lose you all because I just kicked my bandwidth off. So the next thing is the gap or the pain that people are in. Am I still online? Am I still here? Yeah, wait, great. So the next thing I want to make sure I get is the gap, the pain they have, because they're not in pain, and prospect without pain isn't going to do anything. Where's the reason? Where's the itch that you're going to scratch? And then, only then, how you do it. Flowers and bandits on it and bubbles and going down, all flashy stuff. I'm thinking, okay, that's great, but why? And then even when they tell you why, is it for me? Is it for my friend? If you explain to everybody what your market is clearly, when they talk about you, they can say, oh, Stephanie is the community engagement manager. You're in the community stuff, talk to Stephanie. So even if they don't need your services, because you've explained your market, they can become your advocates. You can get extra people telling people about what you do. So the body needs to have a structure, and this is what I think is the minimum effective dosage. Then the close, that's where you tell them the benefits. It's almost like a teaser. You've said what you do, where you do it, but you say right to them, you say, and if you've paid attention all this way, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get engagement, connection. In fact, in Ben's case, you're going to say, wow, so I've been giving all my stuff away without protecting it. Well, guess what? The benefits of working with Ben are you're going to protect your IP, move it all around the world, and be getting paid for it for years, up 20 years, whatever it is, if you re-register it. So that's the result you're going to get from his stuff in the body. And then the biggest one that separates the speech from a pitch is make an offer. What are they, you taught them, you don't give them an offer. Even if the offer is just, let's have a coffee together. Some kind of call to action that means you can move on. A little sneak on, which I normally charge people to tell them this. The offer is a good way to get out of a conversation as well. So if you talk on, again, you're at Tech Wednesday, you're speaking to them, you've told them their stuff, they've told you your stuff, and you're still talking away. The offer, it's great. You've got a new show, we've got this IP conference, I'll see you then. And you can walk away without being rude. You've actually given them a gift. So the offer, there's a lot of things there. So as this is quite interactive, and I've told you what to do, I'll show you again. My name is Michael Don Smith. I provide a proven speaking system. So clients get more and higher value results by designing, pitching, blah, blah, blah. But now my close is a little bit different. I now say, if you or someone you know would like to master these skills, gain the benefits of game-changing management community, let's connect and make it happen. What do you do, by the way, if I haven't spoken, or if I've already spoken, if they've already told me what they do, I say, can I give you my card? And let's make a meeting with the meeting. So it's not a big offer, but at least it's something there that I've made the conversation to keep the conversation going. Now that makes it into a pitch. There's still some bits missing from it, because what I haven't mentioned yet is the value proposition. But before that, what I'm going to ask you to do, I'll go to, but what I'd like you to do is in there, just write in the chat, not who you are, what you do, we've done that. Put your name in there, and this is useful stuff that people are going to see. What's your marketplace? Who do you serve? What's the pain? What's the gap between where they are now and where they're going to be so under the close, this one, what market do you serve? What's the gap or pain that you resolve? And how do you do it?
So just
back on the chat. I've got some now.
So Don,
so
sorry,
Dan Corcoran said, "What is it?
Okay, I think it looks like we've lost Don, unfortunately. Cliff, have you got any recaps on that at all?
Yeah, so sorry about that. We were having troubles a little bit earlier, and we were hoping that we sorted the bandwidth issue out. But there you go. Lots of people doing online shopping and doing video calls to their families next door because they can't go and see them, I expect. So I'm really sorry about that. I guess you were getting the gist of what Don was saying. In fair to summarise for him, he was trying to get you to build this value proposition and sort of build it out yourself in really simple terms. But let me just offer a couple of words of summary, perhaps. So. The couple of really big takeaways I got from this is to remember that 20-year commercial monopoly. So don't forget that 20-year commercial monopoly. That should hopefully drive you towards going to speak to Ben as soon as you can, kind of in your kind of process. The other thing that I took away from Don's was, although we had some connection issues. Hi, Don, welcome back. I think we're just wrapping up now. I think the connections issue sort of got the better of us. One of the key things I took, because this simplicity of communication, whatever you do, but particularly when you're doing a pitch, it is so vital. It's so vital that he's got an important message to say. Maybe we'll get Don back again when we've got better bandwidth or in person when we can. But make an offer. That call to action, really, really key. Don't look at this as you selling to them. You want them to do something. That's what you're asking to do. Some quite kind messages come in, Don, as well, about you. Sorry that your bandwidth was bad. Liked the sound of what you were saying. So we must definitely have you back to do this again. So just a quick wrap up from me on top of that. When I was speaking to these companies, and if you look at, for those of you who look at the blogs from what's going on elsewhere around the world, you read what the VCs are saying, and a lot of the other startup companies, they're all completely focusing on what the core is. What's the real bits of the business that are absolutely vital get rid of the fluff, and through this challenging time, just really focus on that. And Don's kind of wisdom in terms of, the simplicity will help you. And if you're doing something nice and different, then Ben's expertise can help you protect it as well. So look, thanks ever so much. I'm going to shut up now. Thanks ever so much for joining this one. We know some of you, we've had odd little comments and messages, positive ones, saying, come on, guys, Zoom can do a lot more than this. It can be a lot more collaborative. We threw this together last minute. We thought we've got to do something, and we'll continue with this and we'll make it better. So stick with us. Steph, do you want to say anything else?
Really just, to echo what Cliff just said, it was really a trial. We only put it together yesterday afternoon and just thought, why the hell not? We've got as Cliff says, we maybe personally distance ourselves, but not socially. And if we can do that through technology, then yes, so be it. Thank you all for being so involved in the chat. It seems like it's gone down well. We will share the slides as long as Ben and Don are happy for us to do so. I'm getting the nod. So I will share that. Please do drop us, myself or Cliff, an email to gain those, or leave your email address if you're not a GDPR, whatever the word is. But yeah, thank you ever so much. Thank you to the speakers. Thank you to Ben. Thank you to Don. Unfortunately, there is no pizza now, but I'm sure your local delivery service is still going. So do help yourself. Yeah. Cheers, Cliff.
Great. Cheers all. See you guys. Stay well.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
And create a new business. So the journey we've been on with Innovation Birmingham started 10 years ago, where we had the third oldest science park in the UK, Aston Science Park, that had become a real estate play. And we went on a journey over those 10 years to refocus it back to being what you would regard as a science park, where the focus of the businesses is around the technology type businesses. That journey took us so far and took us to the stage where we had 3 buildings, generally full, but we could only go that far because that was the resources we had available to us. So last year, with the move to growers that were owned by the City Council at that time, the question was, well, how do we do that? Well, the only way to do it was to find an external investment partner. So in 2017, we went out to find a partner, and delighted that Bruntwood came forward. So I think the acquisition by Bruntwood has allowed us to think bigger for a start. There are plans to expand beyond with new buildings, but also to reacquire some old buildings. Working with Bruntwood in association with Aston University and Birmingham City University helped drive this knowledge quarter. So that within this city, again, it's allowing us to think bigger and really create a national group, if you like, of activity that sits within Birmingham and really makes a difference for Birmingham.